communications.
Yeah, I got it.
Because that's what your screen
I'm
is
going to
saying.
Europe tomorrow. So
All right, cool. So we're gonna say, okay, thank you, Maya. Have a good lunch. Stay a little longer on me.
So anyway, you may want to time frame for this is
I can do that. Maybe I'll put it out of town. Monday. Yeah, okay.
if you want Monday, send down
Absolutely.
and let them know, here's how you're gonna do,
Okay.
here's what you're gonna do with these.
Three of them. Stephanie has two contracts that have executed. I've sent her copies of the contracts. I've also sent requests asking them to upload their COIs and so, and then Delta Sigma Page for some reason, we're still not.
One of the fraternities that are doing like conferences.
Right. So it's the Omegas, the Kappas, and the Phi Beta Sigma.
What's today?
Today is Wednesday the 15th.
I was at, and I would have usually do that.
I'm glad you do it. That might be good. Okay, that's the Sigmas. If I'm thinking of. Yeah, I got their cards. So I've developed a uniform spreadsheet that sort of thing.
Or like you said, they can do an Excel spreadsheet.
Right.
Which might be easier. But yeah, just tell them what, right. Okay?
Thank you, Charlie.
Yes. We've been working with a process of earmark tasks to try to streamline things. There was one like Senator Gibbs was on it. Maribel Hernandez.
She wants you to be our
I said, you're perfect. So the next time and thank you so much for doing all this. I know it's you guys are great. It seems like a nicer to get into. Yeah, I like whatever you're
It is 2:01. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting of the KHA Finance Committee meeting to order. Okay, first on our agenda, I'm Cynthia Nixon, for those of you who do not know me, and our chair is here. Hello, thank you. Okay, Marcia Oliver. And two of our regular committee members are not going to be present today. One will be participating via,
He hasn't signed on yet,
okay,
but I'll keep checking.
Okay, thank you.
But Marcia
Is
makes the,
Carson,
Marcia
Carson
makes the
will
form.
be via Zoom. And so I'll ask for when he signs on for approval to have that portion virtually. So I move that we have Carson participate virtually.
I second.
Okay. Those two in favor? We motion carries. Okay, as far as public comments, we're gonna take public comments as the item comes up available, to speak. Anyone can speak. I will be asking for public comments related to those items that come up to vote. Okay, next on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from our March meeting. Our last meeting was in March, and I'll request a motion to approve those minutes.
So move.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Motion passed. So, next, our financial reports, and I'll turn this meeting over to our Director of Finance, Ms. Jessica Pitts.
Ma'am, good afternoon. The first statement we're looking at is the KHA operating fund. Under revenues, we do have, some changes there. Our third quarter transfers came in, and also, $60,000 from the city council for the Greek sororities that was transferred in as well. Under the expenditures, projections, they're looking pretty good. We do anticipate expending everything, under grants and aids. Again, our contract year for our providers has changed. So the remaining budget, you will see that look a lot different in our next meeting. We are getting those contracts rolled out, so the encumbrances will increase. And we do anticipate spending our entire budget, hopefully. And there were changes between the preteen team, the special needs, and the grief and burial, the current budget. Again, the $60,000 for the Greek sororities was included in the preteen team. And for special needs, we did a transfer from special needs to the grief and burial to be able to increase the contract for the Angels for Allison, the Allison Grundig Foundation, so we could get that PO to the correct amount of $80,000.
So I have a question. So how do I see the change in that budget that includes? Is that from the current budget to the, because the original budget was already.
Yes, ma'am.
revised.
Well, we would have to compare it to the last statement, yes, ma'am. So I should have put a little asterisk there, so it will be more obvious. But yes, ma'am, compared to the last statement, you will see those changes. Any questions to that statement? So the next one is for the American Rescue Plan funding. The first line, the KHA student engagement, we do have an RFP to utilize those funds for, I'm sorry, it's tiny.
I know. I'm trying to.
And then the mayor's literacy initiative, we are spending that down with all the literacy events that we're holding alongside with the mayor's office. The after-school summer literacy, you'll see a note there. We are trying to encumber those funds on the POs. What happened was the person who does our requisition, she doesn't have access to those lines, so we're having to work closely with procurement to get those additional distribution streams added to the current POs. So once they finish with that, that number will change. For the teacher training and literacy, we're waiting contract execution. The next one is the intensive summer literacy. We have a contract with the UNF Jack Soars, and that contract, we do have a PO number now. And we we are moving forward with that. And the same thing for the early literacy initiatives. The PO for first readers has been established already. It's not updated on here, but as of Friday, we do have a PO number for that contract. And for Goodwill, same thing as the line for after school and summer literacy. We're having procurement to go in and add that distribution string to the current PO.
So this funding, the art funding, what is the plan for those funds to end?
I won't say they gave us until December of this year.
Okay, so and you're planning according to this to spend all the dollars?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And then I noticed on the readers, it said awaiting CPA release from procurement. What exactly does that mean?
Well, once we have the approved contract, the procurement has to attach it in one cloud. And once they attach it on one cloud, then they can allocate those dollars to that. And then once they do that, we can create the PO.
So
It's a-
CPA does not mean what I think it means. Okay.
It's a contract purchase agreement.
I thought it meant certified
No,
public
ma'am.
accountant.
No, ma'am.
That's what happened when you present and advertise. Okay. Okay.
Thank you so much.
And the next one, we have the jump funding. I'm sorry. Yeah, so we have agreements totaling the $382,500. And we do plan on utilizing all of those dollars this fiscal year. And then the Youth Travel Trust Fund. And those applications are still coming in, being reviewed by the Geraldine. She's with under Eric McClure in the Grants Department.
Do we have any new applicants for those funds?
For the Eric of that one about the Youth Travel Trust Fund?
New, as in new for this year, or,
Yes.
so there are two or three. There's one applicant that just came, that we're still trying to go through the review process.
And Ken is gonna do a brief presentation on YCCF ranking.
Yes.
Unless you wanted to talk about it now.
We could wait until Jessica finishes.
Okay.
And then the KHA Trust Fund mini grants. We are rolling out those contracts. The budgets for most of those have been approved. So again, next meeting, you will see a change in the covered amount. And that's all I have. If there are no additional questions about that.
I had one question, going back to the American Rescue Plan Fund, and I guess this is maybe more so of a process question. In looking at the notes for the teacher training and coaching and literacy, we've got FIE, says awaiting contract execution, like what's the?
So it's just going through the process. So it is currently out of KHA's hands, and I'm waiting additional signatures.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So that's just kind of the way it,
Yes,
the
ma'am.
process, the way it goes.
Yes, ma'am.
So we approve now, but it doesn't, I
Well,
guess I'm just trying to kind of understand, like,
yes,
it's not anything that we have.
no,
Okay.
I say, yeah, the funds for them, they haven't been encumbered yet. We won't encumber until the contract has been executed.
Got it.
Yes, ma'am.
Got it. Okay.
So it could be stuck in legal somewhere.
I don't want to say. Yeah,
Wants to be.
yeah, I
Finally today.
yeah, I don't.
I thought the Agilor system,
Agilor.
Yeah.
Agilor made it easier to move through that contracting process.
I'll speak to this particular one. It took much more time to work out all the details and like what the site locations were with the school. So it was just more the planning and making sure the scope was finalized before the contract was.
Okay.
So this one's a little bit of a different scenario. It's not just the signing, but working with UNF and DCPS and Boys and Girls Club. There's the 3 people that are really involved in it to get it all right before we get the contract going.
And UNF has a significant signature process as well.
Anything else? Okay, so that concludes our financial reports. Do we have any public opinion or public comments on the financial reports? So I'll move for approval of I'll move approval of the financial reports to move on to the board committee. There was one additional item that I had requested, and Ms. Pitts commented that she would include it in a packet for the board meeting. It wasn't included in this packet.
Okay.
So with that additional item, I move to include this packet for board approval.
A second?
We both are in favor. We don't have to go through that process.
And she did bring some printouts here if you want to look at it. We weren't sure if you want to include the packet or just talk about it. We can do what you suggested.
So one of the things that I had requested was, we had in our operating budget, we have a line item for contracts. And I just wanted to get some idea of what all was those contracts were included. And so if you were to go back to your operating fund statement, that would be under the professional services contract. You see, we have $64,467. And so Ms. Pitts pretty much, and give us the details on what all that's included.
Absolutely.
Okay?
And what the services, I see we have there, what they are.
Yes, it kind of gives you a general idea of what the services are. And so if we have any questions regarding this, we could discuss it at the board meeting or take it up at our next finance committee meeting. Okay. Okay, so with that said, we move on to new business. First on the agenda is Mr. Doucher.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. So the intent of the YCC Multipurpose Center grant from the Economic Development Initiative is to fund the rehabilitation and improvements of building facilities at the Youth Crisis Center. And by so doing, improve the lives of youth temporarily residing at the RHY shelter, the Residential Runaway Homeless Youth Shelter. And that's the facility located on Parental Home Road, where the Kids Hope Alliance funds the residential crisis care programming right now. After these building improvements have been completed, youth 10 to 17 years of age who are homeless, victims of human trafficking, runaways, or experiencing mental health concerns, and who need immediate housing and crisis services will have access to a new multi-purpose recreational center. Without these improvements, youth currently residing there would not have adequate space for a variety of important recreational activities and services. So this grant came to our attention very recently, and it will be carried out through a collaboration with Youth Crisis Center, because we're a government entity that helps us to apply. The grant award is technically from October 1st, 2024 through December 31st. However, the construction and completion thereof will probably be in the spring of summer of 2025. The board is asked to approve the application, and I would be happy to address any questions.
So just for clarification purposes, the grant is for a 3-month period. Are we going to do a construction during that 3-month period?
And so the way that it's going to work, the grant processing and disbursement of funds will happen in that official fall 2024 period. But to get the building approvals and all of the construction things in place to start the work, it won't actually take place until the spring, summer. So it's a kind of a delayed get the grant, then when the approvals are there for the construction, do the work.
So we don't necessarily have the expenditures during that period, for the grant.
Well, and we can go to Kim, she's here, but I would say that I think the concept is get the money, retain the construction companies, and then the work takes place, the money, I don't know if it's an escrow or.
We don't necessarily have to, maybe we should.
Yeah, let's, yeah.
I'll just wheel on up here. Hi, Kim Sturtevant, CEO of Youth Crisis Center. So this is Congressman Rutherford is our sponsor for this. And so before anything can be done, it has to be approved into law. And that would be done at the end of October. By the time then it goes into a contract with HUD for them to disperse the funds, there's a delay in that process. So it's approved in October for the federal fiscal year. And then by the time they go through the contractual process and contract from HUD to KHA, that would be in the early spring timeframe, and then you all contract with us for the funds. We already have the building itself, so now it would just be a matter of the contract going through and disbursement of funds for us to finish the project in terms of inside the shell, if you will. So it's just really a delay of, yes, you're approved, kind of like what we contract with you all, it goes through the contract period, and then we get the contract, and then we provide deliverables, it would be the same process.
So we're pretty much just gonna hold the funds until you start the construction process?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so then at that point, what happened with any cost overruns or anything that could happen during the construction process?
So there would be a workout between the contracts that is required by HUD and how those disbursements fall. So if there's periodic things that we need to show evidence of, because we're looking at more or less electrical for air conditioning, plumbing for restrooms, and then putting new flooring in and purchasing equipment. So there would be those disbursements along the way that we would have to work out.
The Youth Crisis Center would be responsible for any cost overruns?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and that's embedded in the contract?
I think that's the language to put in there. That's not from the Congressman Rutherford's office. Youth Crisis Center is not in the application for Congressman Rutherford. It's Kids Hope Alliance, and then we would be the recipient of the project.
They'll have a maximum indebtedness.
I actually asked Sarah Lynn this question as well, because we are applying for the grant, because the grant is required to be requested from a federal, from a government agency. And so my question was, did it require legal or any kind of closer examination as a result of that? So I had similar cause, just in an effort to ensure that we are not, well, yeah, like just, when the building and construction, we all know about all the individual homes, issues, delays and things. So just kind of having a much broader discussion that involves others to ensure that legally it's appropriate. And from what I understand from Sarah Lynn, it's something we do pretty often.
Yes. So the contract will have a maximum indebtedness that they will not be able to bill us over. So if, just like any other contract, they typically spend, even our after school, they are spending more money on that program than what we would reimburse, and they have to get that from other places, right, to do fundraising or what have you.
And so this it allow you to serve any additional youth at your facility?
So this is for the youth at our facility.
Okay, but will you have, okay, so you won't necessarily increase capacity with this building?
No.
Okay.
And you did tell us how many youth you serve.
There's up to 34.
Up to 34.
And today we have 24 on our campus in that space.
Okay, great. Okay. Any other questions?
No?
Okay. I guess I move for approval.
Second.
Any public comment? Hearing none, the motion passed. Okay, next item, a grant application for CBIPI grant.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so the purpose of this grant opportunity, known as the Community-Based Violence Intervention and Prevention Initiative, or CBIPI, is from the Office of Justice Programs. Its purpose is the prevention and reduction of violent gang and gun crime through evidence-based community violence intervention, or CVI. The Kids Hope Alliance, in collaboration with the Partnership for Child Health, seeks this funding to ensure Jacksonville has the expertise needed to address community violence that involves youth and young adults who are at the highest risk of violence, including victims and those who perpetrate it. Multidisciplinary CDI strategies will engage individuals and groups to prevent and disrupt cycles of violence and retaliation. Through this funding, Jacksonville's safe and flourishing environment system of care will focus on youth under the age of 21 who are affiliated with, involved in, or at risk of gang or gun involvement or violence interactions as identified by the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office Gang Investigation Unit. JackSafe system of care will serve high-risk youth in Jacksonville's Health Zone 1 and from other parts of the city, which is an area that has suffered from significant gang and gun violence resulting in multiple deaths and injuries of local youth. If approved and awarded, the grants are expected to be up to $750,000 for 36 months, beginning in October 2024 through September 2027. And the Partnership for Child Health would be our subcontractor for this. And staff asked that you approve this application. I would be happy to address any questions.
And this is another federal grant? You know, at one time we had, and I think when we had our meeting about 2 months ago, there was a sheet that was attached to all grants where we had gone through that evaluation process. Was that done for these grants as well? Because I didn't see the sheet.
Matrix, it was, we don't have it today.
Sorry, this didn't get included. We'll put it in the full board packet. I think it's just a oversight, but yes, it was.
Yeah, I remember seeing it, so I kind of knew. So in terms of having any matching funds, there's nothing required.
That's fine.
Okay, and so it would just be the full $750,000 coming from the federal government, and we will have 36 months to spend it.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. Did this come from the violence prevent, I don't know what to call it, to hear more. But you know how we were partnering with the city for, I guess, violence prevention and that committee?
The safety and crime reduction. Safety and crime reduction.
Is that what it's
Commission.
called now?
For now, she's right, they're going to have a Jackson Jury, but it's not stood up yet, but there is a safety and crime reduction
And that
commission.
came out of
No.
this?
Well, Vicki can talk, actually Vicki's on the safety and crime reduction.
So did it come from it or did not?
No, I mean, no, it did not,
Oh,
but
it did not, okay.
Okay, so it is, okay.
Well, there we go.
Well, I'm moving for approval so we can have Vicki present. Move for approval.
Oh, sorry, I'm sorry. I'm like, okay.
Vicki, do you wanna, or since you're gonna be the partner on this grant, is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so can you come and give us some information on how the grant came to be and how you became the partner on it?
You know how much you love federal grants.
Yes, you do.
So this is one, we run several federal grants right now, that come through the Kids Hope Alliance, through the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention. And this is one of, those opportunities. They send out a lot that are, the project officer from OJJDP, we have a really good relationship with. And we actually applied for this a few months ago. And it's a very competitive grant, and it's very, political, so we don't typically like to do those, but the city is currently running one, and with the opportunity to engage with KHA and Langston, then it increases our opportunity, plus our project officer was strongly encouraging us to apply. And right now, the CVIP that the city had was really focused, that was where Cure Violence was funded, and that really focused on adults. And this arm, what we are applying for is to indicate to OJJDP that this will be an expansion focusing on children.
Okay.
So when actually it's children, but it's the whole family because we're coming through the gang notification unit, and they identify one person, but it's the whole family that we go in and serve.
So this is gonna be gang prevention for you?
Sure. Yeah.
Sure. But to your question, I just wanted to mention too, Vicki and I and others have been meeting quite frequently with Charles Griggs, who's in the mayor's office, and he's really responsible for getting Jack's Journey back up. And so he's been really involved in crafting this proposal.
So, in addition to you as the lead partner, have you identified any other partners, maybe any of our providers that are gonna be?
Oh, there's everything that we're doing, every grant that we apply for is a systems-based, systems-focused grant. And so we don't go into any of these projects without having at least 10 partners. One, because we'll have all the letters and everything, and we're utilizing a similar focus from the last one that we applied for, and there was 15 partners in that. And so we anticipate using them, and really it's you're kind of corralling. We got a little bit of a late start writing this because the city was a little bit trying to determine what they wanted to do. And so it'll be the same type of system of care where it's more challenging, but it works better when you have the whole community.
Yeah, it gets the community involved, and so I like that. Okay.
Yeah, I had asked Vicki, a question during the earlier meeting today, the governance meeting, about how this serves youth and families. I think you mentioned specifically trauma-informed, care and services, because during my time at the mayor's office, I recall the emphasis and kind of the services for cure violence, and those very much focused on the perpetrator, very much focused on, the person committing the crime, the violent act, but what were the offerings and the opportunities to address the siblings or the youth or the others who are in the home who are witnessing it. So using your language, gang prevention, I think is, Vicki kind of like reluctantly said, sure, but that's really kind of how.
I'm joking there. But really, the gang identification from JSO, that's the portal with which we enter.
Right.
And so that for every young adult that's in there that's identified, there's a family that's attached.
Right.
Sometimes there's up to 7 and 8 children in there.
Yes.
And then, but we really are, not all of the youth that are identified through JSO are documented gang members, but they are affiliated with. And so it gives us the opportunity to go in, the family, the mother, a lot of times you have moms who just don't know what to do. They've already moved a couple times because somebody's trying to shoot their kid.
Yeah.
And so while the JSO has a little bit of a different method by which they engage, we then come back around and we have a lot more empathetic and trauma-informed manner.
And because it's a systems approach, I would gather that the school district is gonna be involved as well,
Ideally.
and the resource officers.
I mean, we always end up putting, full service schools is always a component that, regardless of the community, there's always a full service school there. And so that's always ideal. We are engaging with DCPS. They're going through some transition, so, but they have to be at the table.
And in the news, yes.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm happy to see it. You said it's a competitive grant, it's a political grant, but I certainly hope we get it.
Me too, because it's a lot of work.
It's needed. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? I'll open the floor for public comments. Hearing no other public comments, all those in favor of passing? We. It's approved. Okay, next is the Mayor's Youth Leaders Advisory Council, RFP.
Yes. So we currently operate this program. The provider that we partner with is Goodwill. It's just up for RFP, and so we're putting out a sort of new revised RFP that we've been working with the mayor's office on. That executive order shows that we have 50 kids in the program. They participate for a year-long program. They have to do a service component project, and then they're supposed to have some advisory component with the mayor, which has been kind of, a hit or miss probably this past couple of years. So I would say that this administration is more involved, and Pat McCall has been kind of our liaison on that, helping us get this ready. So this will be a year-long program for 50 kids, juniors and seniors. They'll be recruited from all high schools. If they complete the program entirely, they will get a small scholarship as well. Oh, and they get to go, one of the things that we added this time that was not in the past is that they're required to take them on a trip to Tallahassee.
Sounds good. I'm familiar with the MyLAC program, so, I don't know if, I guess I should move it for discussion. I move second, okay. So open for discussion, so I'm very familiar. I don't know if there's anybody else who wants to speak to it. You said all the
Well, this was gonna be an RFP.
Oh, okay, so it's RFP. This is an RFP, but we already identified the partner that's gonna be working with, we're working with on this, which is Goodwill.
For now, but they'll have to reapply.
They have to be.
Right, whoever it was, it might not be them. going
Okay,
forward.
so they will not be listed as a provider here
Right,
when we put it out for RFP?
right, correct.
Okay, so it'll be open for others to apply?
Exactly.
Oh, okay, that's good. So is this one of the programs that is evaluated through, the evaluation process? And if so, what has been the feedback on the MyLAC program so far?
So we've done a lot of listening with the youth to see what they want, and so a lot of the parts that are in this RFP are as a result of that. So one is that they wanted to have more actual involvement with the government process. And so we are hoping to engage different city council members and just make it more collaborative. It's been a little bit, like they would have one government day, but the rest was a little bit removed. And the other part was going to Tallahassee and seeing some stuff in the legislature, so we made sure to add that in as well.
My question on that, so, and I mean, I'm familiar with the program too. My son was a part of the program as a high schooler, and that wasn't the focus. I mean, there wasn't civic engagement or government. It was more so life and career readiness. And so it's moving beyond just character development and youth leadership to being very much focused specifically on civic participation. I guess my question is, so is that the reason why it has to now go out for bid, because the scope is changing?
Exactly.
Okay.
Every year, this has actually been a sole source with Goodwill.
Okay.
And the reason we did it with a sole source in the past was that since they have take stock in children,
Right.
they can do a one-for-one
Right,
match with
right.
scholarship. So
Right.
every
Which I
dollar that
love
we
that.
put, right. So it was kind of an extension of a take stock program,
Right.
but it is changing somewhat now. So we're gonna still encourage them to apply and have, we get the scholarship benefit if they end up getting it. But there's others I know that do similar work that I'm sure will apply as well.
So let me understand that. So it was sole source for Goodwill previously because of the benefit of what it provided you. Why would we not do sole source unless is that benefit going away? Are they
No,
not
the
going,
benefit's not going away. I think the mayor's office just wants to do an RFP and see what.
in
else
order
they
to do it more broadly?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I mean, explaining it that way,
Yes.
because I mean, having the
I agree.
ability to have a college scholarship for a student is very valuable.
Yes.
I see Winston. Were you on MyLAC?
Yeah, you can talk about it, Winston.
Were you on MyLAC?
I was in I was in the mayor's.
Okay.
Rodney, that's Rodney you're thinking of, Rodney.
But Winston does work there now part-time.
Okay, then, hearing no public comments, no other questions, I move for approval. Okay, next on the agenda is civic engagement RFP?
That's correct. So one of the things that we did this time in working with the mayor's office on what we wanted to develop, we've had several meetings over the course of probably the last 4 months about what we wanted to do. We got $170,000, actually just saw it on the ARP funds for just earmarked civic engagement, but it wasn't very specific as to what that meant. Since we already had $100,000 that was going to Goodwill for MyLac, we sort of combined those two amounts to 270 and then split it up between these two RFPs. What this one will do is provide civic engagement days. So it won't be like as in depth and have the advisory component, but it'll allow each day will have to be at least 40 kids. There'll be 14, a minimum of 14 days. They can do more, but a minimum of 14 days so that each of the district or city council will basically kind of focus on that region for one of the 14 and pull from those high schools. And then at the end of the year, with the summer, all the kids that participated, it will actually open to all teens, but we'll really make sure the ones that participated come to it. A full day sort of mini conference with a teen town hall, a TED talk, speakers, things of that nature. So it's really trying to just get them, again, it's not like a real deep touch, but again, understanding how the process works, how they be advocates, why it's important to vote.
And so you're gonna recruit kids from around the city?
Right, so we'll target whatever those high schools are in those each district for each day.
So the same youth will not necessarily participate in all of the districts?
Correct, right, we want it to be different every single time. So we can cover more
Will
kids.
the MyLac youth be able to participate with this?
I don't think so,
Okay.
yeah. And I don't know they would really have a need, but we will invite them to the summer event, the town hall.
Because the MyLac is 50,
Right.
this is,
A minimum of 40. They can do more if they want, but we're just requiring at least.
so this is less than MyLac.
Right.
Oh, I don't know why I thought it was the other way around.
Well, this will be 40 times 14. So yeah, that's how many total kids will go through it.
So
Different 40 every, got it, okay, perfect.
And so, and if the district doesn't necessarily get the 40 youth to participate.
Then we will open it up, definitely.
Okay, I move for approval.
Second.
Any public comments?
I have one more thing that I was gonna ask once, and if you didn't mind saying something, I'll put you on the spot. But the other thing that we're doing, not with this RFP, but you all might want to know about, is we do operate the PAGE program with city council. So do you want to say anything about how that's been going or?
Amazing, honestly. It's been going amazing. So yes, we've been helping out the city council page program, operating it, going out, trying to get as much young people we can to get involved. It's a challenge because it's in the evening, a lot of parents, transportation and people getting off, but we probably only missed one council meeting where we didn't have young people. But it's been very amazing. The young people love the experience. Last night, we had 2 young men who were a part of it. They were dressed to the T. They looked like they could work the city hall, city government. So, but it was a great experience. And we've also been doing amazing tours. So I want to throw that in there. The tours around City Hall have been amazing as well. Last Monday, we had the 5,000 role models of excellence from Northwestern Legends Elementary School, which is located on 45th and Mount Creek community. They came to City Hall and those young men enjoyed it. So it was great. It was a great experience. So it's been going well.
Let me ask, have we engaged or do we engage with the school district in this effort and outreach? Because I know they used to have a student government, like.
Of all the high school
Of all
students?
the high school students, it was something that was
Yes.
developed by Dr. Krisnar. Do they still have that? Because I think that's I see some DCP as heads now. Is there outreach specific to them, since that is kind of what I recall that whole program was developed for?
I actually have not talked to that program, but I have been working with Duval County Public Schools to try to build something where we can get as much students from the public school system involved. So one person that I've been talking to a lot is Mr. Brady Mack.
Yeah.
With
He's 5,000, well, he's community, family, community engagement.
that's it, yes ma'am, Director of Community and Family Engagement, yes ma'am.
And he's now, as I understand it,
He's gonna be,
moving
he's
to another
gonna be
administration.
switching out, so
Right. It may
it's
be,
about taking
yeah.
the mantle to the
Yeah.
next level, because
Yeah.
of course, we're going through change in the school district.
right, it may
So,
be good to look at that very targeted school, whatever, I can't remember what they were called, it's not advisory group, but the Student Government Association,
know
like, I think
know
that
the
is,
organization.
Yeah.
yeah, that's a good group to target.
Yes, ma'am. You got it. All right.
Yeah, I don't know who runs it, but.
Okay. Hearing no other public comment?
Ms. Pat, you walked in right at the opportune time. We were just voting on the 2 civic engagement RFPs, so since you've been so instrumental, I don't know if you want to add anything, you don't have to, but.
So first of all, thank you all so much for the work that you do and what you pour into this particular program and KHA, the schools, the community, and the kids, students, what we don't call them kids, what we call it. It's kids of the line. I call them youth. And I just really want to thank Rachel and Dr. Grass for all the work they put into this work and the changes that they had vision to see where changes needed to be made, and they made those changes. We agreed on those changes with the mayor's office and with Kids Hope Alliance, and in hopes that you all would vote this as a yes as well.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so, I moved it already, correct?
Right.
Okay, so, we approve, all right. Okay,
Please.
action item approved, RFP. Next is contract exceptions.
That's me. Good afternoon, everyone. If I may, just real quick before I get into that action item, our kids were able to attend the city council program as well, and I wound up going home, having really long conversations on race and things like police brutality and, you know, a lot of public comments that comes up during those meetings, and so it was a very valuable lesson for my kids, and we had some really good conversations about, you know, life. And so outside of just seeing how the city works and operates, it's a great program to expose you to much more than that, so.
So tell them to run for office.
How about that? So contract exemptions. So the action item you have before you right now, we're seeking your approval. For these, some background on these are 2 exemptions. These are already provided exemptions, and their exemptions, their renewals have expired. And so these programs have been offering services, full service schools. I can't tell you how long, since I've been here in 2008. I do know we have, Mr. Porter is here, if you have any questions later about that. But both agencies qualified up under the exemption number 5, which is prevention services related to mental health and/or child abuse prevention. And we're just asking to be able to continue to renew these contracts. Both providers have been performing services to what was asked, and we're pleased with those services, and staff recommends approval.
Okay, I'll move the item so I can open for discussion.
Second.
Okay. Any questions, discussions? I do have a question. This is only our portion of the funds that's related to full service school. So I do recall a while back, it was many more millions of dollars that went into full service schools.
It still is just a collaboration.
Okay, so how much are we up to in total, and does it still allow mental health counselors in all the schools, or how does that work right now?
Yes, I'm going to turn that over to Mr. King.
Yeah,
He's an expert.
thank you all for allowing me to speak, and thank you to Kids Hope Alliance for your many decades, I know over 2 decades of support for full service schools and the work that we do collaboratively with Duval County Public Schools. So Ms. Nixon, to your question, it's about a $5.6 million investment total between Kids Hope Alliance, Duval County Public Schools, as well as United Way in the mental health realm. Again, there are a lot of moving pieces to full service schools, but specifically for what Kids Hope Alliance funds and the district as well as United Way, is about $5.6 million. And what that funds is 79 total therapists that provides mental health services in all 155 Duval County Public Schools, as well as 30 charter schools. So through those 79 therapists, as well as 7 licensed clinical therapists, we are able to provide a cadre of therapists that go into the schools to provide not only professional development and tier 1 interventions, so it's like kind of like whole school programming, but also group support, as well as tier 3, which are the more deep end and the one-on-one mental health services that many of our kids need.
I do recall this was one of those items that took a systems approach that Vicki was talking about earlier. But we know that mental health has been, it's just been increased dramatically. And so when I hear the amounts, I'm thinking, how is that serving the program, or do you need, what is the need? And is it addressing any of the increased need that you've had over the years?
So thank you for the question. I would love to say that it is meeting the needs, but I think that we can do more. So when I say it's 128,000 students that have access, I don't want you to think that we're providing services to 128,000 students. On average, we get around 7,000 referrals each and every year, and we actually touch about 3,800, 3,900 students in regards to consented mental health services. So for us to provide mental health services, we have to have parental consent. But what we learned through our partnership with System Care, when we were piloting our full service schools plus model, where we embedded a dedicated therapist on the walls of the schools, that we know that it takes a lot of dedication in regards to relationship building to better assist us in gaining those consents. So our referral to consent ratio, when we have those one-to-one therapists, it increases around 60 percentile versus around 50% when we don't have it, where the therapists have to go to multiple schools. So we piloted that. Again, I think that is a really expensive model, but we know it works. And we were blessed in 2018 with the district when they received Marcus Stroman Douglas dollars because of a parking shooting. And then the city, Dr. Grass, Kenneth started, they stepped up in providing additional resources to full service schools for us to expand to support all students within the county. So again, it's hard for me to say what the needs are, because I think if we were able to have those embedded therapists in the walls of those schools, I think it will drive even more referrals. Because to your point, after COVID, we've seen where kids are suffering at a higher rate, and just thankful to have those therapists at least available to students when needed. And it is depending on where they fall on the Richter scale in regards to if we're providing tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3 interventions.
So this is different from the prior full service plus model. This is a little different.
So it's different from our traditional model, where we're only on 87 Duval County Public Schools. Now, again, we're in all 150, plus we've added an additional 30 charter schools that have the ability to opt in. And in year 1, I think we had like 13 charter schools opt in. And as we've grown and they understand the impact, they have opted in, and we're expecting even more this upcoming year. I will say that, we are closely monitoring what's happening at the school district, and are afraid of, some potential financial constraints, which will speak to how we need to try to garner more funding to make sure that we're providing the needed support in our community. But again, just so thankful for our partnership and your dedication for many years to help support our students and families in the community.
Well, Keto, the only reason why you would know those many years of partnerships, because you've been a leader for many
Yes,
years,
I agree.
driving and supporting that partnership. So thank you for your leadership, service, and commitment. I mean, Ms. Nixon is right in terms of mental health and the growth and the needs and the stigma and just really the conversations that are being led in public spaces and places with athletes. I mean, we think about just how we've seen, in the last 3 years, we can name them, Naomi Osaka, Simone Biles, like the list goes on and on and on. So having a greater sense of urgency around mental health, I think is important. I will share that I asked Dr. Grass if we could have you present at our upcoming board meeting. You can blame me if you weren't planning on attending, but May is Mental Health Awareness Month. I think it's a great opportunity for the public to hear specifically what you're doing and how you're helping to transform and improve lives. So we're
Appreciate
thankful
that.
for you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So also the family support services, child abuse prevention, I'm not exactly sure what all that entails. Is there someone here that can speak to that?
They're
weren't here
earlier. But I can give a little
Okay.
bit of detail, not as much as the staff obviously would have been, but they're actually located in the Emmett Reed Center. And they provide child prevention services, case management services. There's a lot of sort of like wraparound services that they sort of coordinate. They're actually sort of being considered the regional community service provider for here in Jacksonville. So they're actually identified for the region. Outside of that, as far as the reach and numbers of impact and things, I don't have that detail. But my staff have told me that they're very pleased with the services, and they've been adhering to all the compliance standards that they have in the contract.
So when you say wraparound services, what specifically are you referring to? What are those wraparound services?
I don't have all the details on that.
I can speak to it.
You can speak to that?
Yeah, and the way this came about actually was the FSS worked with NLP, separate from our contractor. They worked with the same contractor to identify what area in town had the most child abuse calls.
Wow.
Whether they're substantiated or not, someone just calling it in. And this area right around Emmett Reed was the highest concentration of that. And so they get a lot of their funding, as Ken has said, from the state, which is really more to operate the child welfare system. But they want to try to get into prevention as well, so people aren't entering the child welfare system. And so they actually have like a diaper bank there, they have a clothing closet, they have monthly parenting classes. So all the things that basically trying to alleviate the needs that would cause issues in the home that then might spiral into, child abuse or neglect.
So this is for the family.
It is.
So Terry Florio was here. Was she the staff person, or she's with Mel Washington Youth Foundation? But you mentioned Emmett Reed. Aren't they?
They're right next to
They
each
are.
other.
Do they serve those?
I do think there's some
MW.
collaboration.
They work well together.
Okay.
And one of our other partners, Lutheran Services, they're in the building. They provide childcare. Actually, Vicky has space in the building as well. So they have a lot of different
Yeah.
providers that are coordinating all of that.
Good.
Great. Well, any public comments? Hearing none? Aye. Okay, it's approved. Okay, next is the contract extensions. We had heard exemptions, so now we want extensions.
Right, so we go from exemptions to extensions. So this, the board is being asked to approve a 6-month contract extension. So some background on this request. This was a request for proposal. I believe it was bid number 0374-21. And so there was an overlap in this bid when we put out recent after school funding. So it was assumed at one point that these sites would actually have, there'll be some consolidation with DCPS and some construction and things going on in their sites. So there wouldn't be any summer camp available. That has since changed. And so we want to continue those services for those students and families. And so this approval of this request will allow us to do that. And the intent is to, we've also received a request from DCPS for several other sites to consider for funding. So we've included that in our upcoming budget. And the hope is, if approved, we will put those sites out as well as these 3 for bid in the new year.
So this is to provide summer camps at the facilities?
Yes, it'll be summer camp and it will take them through December.
So that will be the start of the new school year.
Correct.
And so, considering all the things, well, I guess I should move it forward. Okay, second, okay, move for discussion. Okay. Now, so considering everything that is in the news about DCPS and closing schools, these schools were not impacted, but there could be other schools impacted. Could there?
Yeah, there's always, we have our DCPS representatives here. There's always schools that are typically impacted with called the red list, school repairs, things of that nature. We've been in close contact with the team right here, Mr. Boyd, Mr. Darren, and kind of already talked through those challenges. And arrangements has already been made for parents and seats for those locations. But these sites were thought to possibly be on one of those lists. That changed, they became available. And once we found that out, we wanted to continue those services.
That's great.
So what is Charger Academy?
Charger,
Wasn't
that
Jeff
used to be
Davis,
Kirby?
I think Jeff Davis,
Oh, no,
That
that
was
was,
State.
I'm thinking
Yeah.
Springfield.
on the west side.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what the name changed.
Okay. Any public comment? Let's see, the
I'll say, Leon Baxton Communities and Schools, I'll say thank you, this allows Southside Estates Elementary students who've been through this year to continue through the summer and avoid any learning gains or loss. And so we're really excited about it, and thank you for the district and all of you for allowing us to continue and into the school year. And hopefully it'll go beyond that, so, with the RFP, whoever gets it. The principal is real excited and happy, but you never want to not have a summer camp with everything going on in the summer. That's true. All those things.
Yeah.
So definitely say thank you.
Okay, let's see, Wayman is a provider and Boys and Girls Clubs. Well, we moved it for approval, all those in favor? Okay. Okay, so that concludes all of our new business. Next on our agenda, it says finance activities. Jessica, I think you're presenting on the budget.
Yes,
Is
ma'am.
that next?
Yes, ma'am.
These are activities from your timeline.
Okay.
That was.
Yeah.
You see it on there, Miss Pat? You're showing the grant statements, right? One more. Yep, thank you. So our KHA, we submitted our budget, April 26th. The items that are, the lines that are highlighted, those lines, those amounts were provided to us by the budget office. The operating fund, I will say, we did not make any changes there. So that's consistent with what you saw, at the last, finance statement. If you go to the next sheet, Ms. Pat. And this is, so the items highlighted in blue, those are grants and aids lines. What we did here, we rolled anything that's highlighted in blue, we rolled those into the already established KHA essential service category. So that was the ARC funding and the funding that we received from the transition committees. We did ask for increases in each of those essential service categories, and that's pretty much to maintain current service levels. For example, OST, we did ask for, you'll see that this increase includes the $3 million the 3.7 million in art funding, as well as 100,000 in transition funding, and then additional increases to increase the after-school rate from $12.50 to $14.41 in order to match the state of Florida after-school rate. Now, for juvenile justice, those increases, again, were just to maintain current service levels. Early,
Justice, okay.
yes, ma'am. Early learning, we rolled up the 850,000 in ARPA funding. And then we did an additional increase to maintain current service levels, for increases to childcare rates, across the state. And preteen teen, we included the 1 million in ARPA funding, the 1.6 in transition funding, and an increase of 115,000 to accommodate for current service levels, due to increase in minimum wages. For special needs, we included the 430,000 from transition funding, and again, an increase of 400,000 to maintain current service levels for the different programs. And grief and burials, we did an increase of 90,000 to accommodate for the increase of costs associated with burials and to maintain current service levels. And so the highlighted lines below, the numbers, they coincide with the note next to the essential service category. So you'll see where each line was moved to.
So essentially, I guess we don't have to approve this item because this is in the budget request already, correct? Okay, so we could just have open discussion about it. So right now, we're proposing an increase in the budget of $6,600,000, correct? So we're saying that that's not gonna serve any additional youth because it's the increase in cost, is that? Yeah, so, okay, that's kind of challenging, but,
So not an increase in service.
not an increase in services, but an increase in, that's our cost of living increase.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, just the whole burial thing, I mean, I know that was,
Yes, ma'am.
that's just,
So we're requesting another $90,000 in burial costs, but their cost has gone up that much to where, I mean, it's tripled to where we are not gonna serve any more burials, we're not gonna have any more. I don't know, that just sounds,
That first column should really be 80 instead of 47.
Yes, it was, yeah, we increased it, from, when we went over the, operating fund. Remember I mentioned that we moved from special needs to, grief and burial to, it was 47, but now it's 80,000.
okay, so you had increased for the current year.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, so it really only increased by 10,000.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that seems to make more sense to me.
Because you
Okay.
will see an enhancement
Yes,
that
ma'am.
actually asks for additional dollars.
the
For
payout,
increase,
yeah, in their
right,
needs,
for increased
in the need.
service.
Okay, and so what you're doing is essentially rolling up some of those additional funds that we had with the ARP funding and all of that.
Yes, ma'am.
So, okay, and so, I think when we spoke earlier, I had questioned, you said the cost of daycare, the child care services was increasing. Do we know what that is increasing from to? Or on a per child basis?
Yeah.
So that's our early learning cost, is that where that is?
That's correct. So we help to match school readiness funds to pay for basically vouchers. And this year, through the legislative process, they increased the rates, which is a good thing for the childcare providers of all the different, and they break it up, and I'll get those numbers for you, but like infant and toddler care, pre-K care, all those things.
Okay,
So I'll find those for you.
so I do recall that was matching funds that we provided to the Early Learning Coalition at one time. So is all of that increase matching funds to the Early Learning Coalition?
That's correct. They're the ones that I could pull down from that.
Okay. And the juvenile justice, that's to increase the service level, the current service. But I didn't see where any additional funds came from, like BARC or anything.
No, we didn't have any, additional funds from ARC or the transition that went into the juvenile justice, line.
Okay. Any questions?
So the budget does need to be approved by the board meeting. Okay, so I just wanted to make sure this will be approved at the board meeting, the budget.
It needs to be approved at the board meeting. Has this gone to NDRC?
I think June 21st is our date.
Okay, so you get our approval to submit it to NDRC, right?
And if you all really wanted to make changes, we can. I mean, it's not too late, you know. It's probably, we don't want to make significant ones since we did submit it, but I don't want you to feel as though you cannot make any changes because it hasn't gone through NDRC or the mayor's office or anything like that yet.
And I would like to note that the after-school rate, the out-of-school time rate is going from $12.50 per unit to $14.41 per unit. So, you know, I think that is a good thing for our providers, and so I want the providers to take note of that.
Leon got very excited, just so you know.
Okay, and if you want to speak to that rate and how it serves your program?
Yes, so first of all, it's very competitive. When you run an after-school program, you have to pay for quality and staff. And we're competing with McDonald's and everybody else's rates have gone up. And so you want to pay people so they can stay. The second thing is most of us agencies, I speak for CIS, we're going to overserve what we normally are funded to serve as well. But, you know, in order to prevent the staff turnover and competing and everything, we have to pay a little more. And I think that's very important to quality. Everybody understands that quality costs. And we've been doing some great work, you know, on the cheap to some extent, paying people less. And now is the time to really ramp up, especially with enrichment, with academics and everything else. Fees have gone up with field trips and everything else. Everything is higher. So that would be my argument. And so we're real excited to hear that, you know, so we can keep some staff. Looking at teachers too, everything. You know, everybody's struggling out there. And I don't want to be competing and then seeing half of my Richmond staff working at McDonald's or Costco. No, it's just true. Sure.
And I do know that many of our providers, they put in the resources from funds they raise from other entities in order to support those programs. So that is good to see.
But I wanted to put it in that perspective.
So I guess I should move this for approval in finance since it has to be approved by the board, right?
You can, or we're not gonna put it on consent because the other group
Okay,
didn't,
okay.
so everyone will be able, we're gonna like kind of
We
rediscuss
don't
this.
need- Okay, well, it's just open for discussion. Okay, I don't have any other comments. Okay. Next on our agenda.
There's one more page to that budget process that Jess is going to go over, which is the enhancement request.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, so these are our ask for enhancements for the upcoming budget period. We're requesting $450,000 in the contractual line, and this is to do building upgrades and improve security within the building. We also asked for an additional $450,000 in the special needs category. And 240 of that is a grant match to provide case management in 6 elementary schools. And 210,000 is to expand the Achievers for Life case management to 3 additional schools. In early learning, we asked for an additional $1,250,000 for early learning literacy coaching and supports in early education and care facilities. 250,000 to expand existing pre-K through 12 and after-school teacher literacy training and coaching. And then 500,000 to establish an attendance support program for elementary schools to ensure children are in school and able to improve in literacy. For OST, we asked for an additional $4 million, 2.1 for after-school and summer services at 11 additional DCPS and park and recreational sites. 1.5 million to establish a comprehensive countywide quality assessment and coaching initiative for after-school and summer programming. And 400,000 grant match for providers utilizing federal funding to provide snacks and dinner to children during the KHA programming hours. Under juvenile justice, we added and asking for an additional 500,300 to provide additional service to youth going through the juvenile justice diversion program, and 200,000 to provide enrichment programming to youth housed within the Duval Regional Juvenile Detention Center. The KHA Trust Fund, we're asking for an additional 575,500 to fulfill the established emerging provider contracts. 50,000 for $2,500 in mini grants to non-funded agencies for one-time projects and events, and then 25,000 for 1,000 mini grants, $1,000 mini grants to support special community events for providers. For grief and burial, we're asking for an additional 60,000 to provide funding for more burials and a part-time grief counselor to be hired by the Angels for Allison. In Youth Travel Trust Fund, we're asking for an additional 50,000 to fund 5 more programs for the Youth Travel Trust Fund initiative. And the Summer Camp Trust Fund, we're asking for an additional 50,000 to provide scholarships to individuals seeking summer specialty summer camps and that are not currently funded.
Okay, so this is gonna be open for discussion at the board meeting as well, so I guess right now with finance, we just have some discussion on the item. Motion second? Second. Okay. Okay, so move for discussion. Okay, so, yeah, you want to start open with any questions you may have first?
On these items, on the enhancement request?
Yes.
No, I mean, I spent some time with Sarah Lynn, prior, to, you know, kind of talk about the significance of these and where and how, you know, I don't want to say they rank, but where and how they are critical, to where we are, so.
Don't we have to provide a link list when we submit it to NPRC?
Yeah.
So I have a question regarding the construction. So is that for construction in this building?
It is, yes, ma'am. And we're hoping for that one that we don't, this is not the final cost. We just got the architect paid, I don't know, this week maybe or something. And so we hope before June, we've kind of given them a deadline, we'll have a real number that we can put in there.
So what are we changing? We need to build out something in the current facility?
The biggest request, and this has been done in a number of other buildings and floors, like as an example, in the procurement office on the 8th floor of Ed Ball, they did this exact same thing, and it's the same contractor, so we're gonna kind of just mirror what the city is doing. Since we do have a lot of public areas here, basically right now, someone from the public could potentially walk in and they can walk right up to a staff desk. So we're putting walls, it might even be glass walls, but with card readers, so that the parts that the staff sit in, you could not go back to them unless you have a card reader. So that's the main goal.
So that's for safety issue. Okay. The early learning, $1 million. I guess I have a question. Is this money that is gonna be passed through from KHA to the early learning coalition?
So the $500,000 one, the last one, is a collaboration with DCPS. They have actually worked with us to come up with when they wanted for attendance. This piece, if it all goes, would be actually a piece of technology that we would use with them together that tracks attendance and encourages parents to come. And then the other two, the first 250 would likely go to the ELC, but it's for a project that we're already working on, but it only is funded right now at $50,000. And so if we get, additional funds, it's called LENA. It's a reading program that's for 0 to 5, and there's really not that many for that age group. And then for the second one, the 250, that would not be any kind of pass. We have to still determine what we're gonna do with that. But we approved a contract last month or last board meeting for that same, early literacy coaching to go forward. What we're just kind of finding is keep it going. We're gonna really probably need more money in subsequent years to build it out to more schools. Because right now with the funding that we proposed, we could only provide it at 9 schools.
So say that again? So that one we don't have a plan for?
Well, I mean, right now, we're contracted with FIE and UF, which I would assume we would likely still do, but we might want to bring on another trainer of some sorts. But right now, it'll be in 9 schools, that coaching. And so we're trying to expand it to more schools than that.
Has that been expressed as a need? I guess
Yes.
I'm trying to understand.
Yes, I mean, basically, as we were planning this process with the district, we've had several meetings with the school. Kelly Coker's been in the meetings, and as well as Paul and others from the district. We want to target more schools, basically, that's what the funding is provided.
So, but this is funding that is gonna go to FIE to do coaching for.
Or UF, yes.
But that's already determined. That's predetermined?
Well, that's what I was saying. I don't want to say it's predetermined. Those are who the contractors are now. So we could decide if we get it to increase those contracts or put out an RFP to have a third contractor. So no, it's not really determined.
I guess my question,
But it's that same body of work.
I guess my question is in listening to, and I don't know whether this is a discussion today or a discussion with the whole board, but in listening to Keto, when we talk about mental health and a reduction in services, setting aside money for potential opportunity versus setting aside money for an immediate need. And maybe I'm feeling that way just because we're having that conversation today. But it just doesn't feel right. Like we're gonna set this aside to potentially expand because it's something nice to do. But we've got
A nice
critical-
to have versus
a critical
must have.
service. So if we've got 250 to hold, like why would there not be an enhancement request in that area?
And when that's a very good point.
I mean, I'm all for providing what needs are. And that just hit my ears a little different when it's like, we'll hold that for potential use to expand. I don't know.
And the other thing that, I have a question on is, have we worked with, in lieu of some of the challenges that DCPS is going to, be hit with the budget reductions, are we working with them at all to try to fill that gap in some way? Because, I've spoken with many teachers that have youth in their program, and I guess DCPS has something called an iReady program that some of the schools cannot have, but there's a critical need for that program in the school. I think I may have mentioned this to you before, but some of the schools are not able to provide that resource for their students that are below reading level because they don't have the money for it. And, and it seems like, I don't know, it just seems that we're working with them and they've identified some needs. maybe we could help them with some of their gaps that they're going.
So those are reflected here, and I'm not sure what you mean by, but that 250 is a request from them. So they're coaching, they now have reading coaches, and I think they have, I don't want to quote it wrong, but maybe like 12 right now, and they're going down to 5. And so they're not going to be able to provide the same level of training and coaching throughout the district that they were. So that's one of the things that we're doing to help meet their needs. They actually made like a list of things that we want to partner on. And so this captures a lot of those things.
Is that, you said coaching for, that's the literacy coaching for
Right.
early education, or is that the after school teaching?
The second one, the after
The
school.
literacy, right?
Right, pre-K-12 and after school.
Yeah. I don't know, is anyone here from, and maybe we could have them for the board meeting, just maybe ask if there's someone here who can help us. I did see a hand, but because I'm not the chair of this committee, I cannot recognize the hands that are up back there.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't know this.
I just wanted to address Marcia's comment about the need, and Keto was saying, because you can identify the need. You know, when 1 in 5 children have a mental health issue, and you have 128,000 kids, then you can already say that there's like, 20-something thousand, right? But then you can look at the number of providers in the community and determine whether or not you're meeting all that need. So we can do that. We can identify that. And then you look at and then if you look at trauma on top of that, so if you're looking at mental health, you're looking at in every single classroom, you can assume that 5 children have mental health, 5 or 6 kids. And then if you're looking at trauma, that 10 out of every 30 will have trauma indicators. And then you look at how many providers you have just in the school, but then you look at all the community providers. So just looking at the providers that KHA funds, and then you can ascertain those caseloads, but that is just for primarily your Medicaid kids. Your insurance kids is a whole nother issue, and we don't even look at how many people provide that. So it's more the Medicaid kids that are, of course, they have greater marginalization with regards to social determinants of health, so that number's not even gonna be accurate, 1 in 1 in 5, it's gonna be more like, 1 in 3. And so you really can kind of get an idea of what your need is as opposed to what you have. But I do think that Keto will come here next time with exactly what that number
Well,
is.
Keto, well, actually, I mean, I actually heard Keto say, 7,000, there were 7,000 kids referrals who've been identified, and we have met 3,800. So that hit my ears to say that there is a gap of 3,800 referrals who are consenting to services who aren't receiving services. So I don't think he failed in communicating the need. Right.
Connect.
Yeah, because that's what I heard, like, I mean, you gave us a lot of stats, but when I started doing my Duval County public schools math, it was 7,000 minus 3,800, that means 3,800 are not receiving services. So how much would how much would CARE, how much would that be for 3,800? And I guess I'm putting you on the spot.
Maybe that's something he should bring to our meeting next week.
Yeah, that's right.
Maybe we should reallocate our resources to meet some of what we know is a great need right now. I mean, I know this is a wish list though.
Right, and I don't want you all to think that we came up with this in any kind of silo on our own.
Right,
This was all done with partners, and we have identified these things as needed, working with our partners.
Sure.
We understand.
Yeah.
But, okay, so now I'm gonna take off, well, I'm gonna keep my board member hat on, but I'm gonna move to back to the operating budget, where I see that we are constantly increasing our programs and our contracts. What are we doing in terms of providing services to support those contractors internally with our staff?
So one of the things we have asked for in this budget is to outsource some of the things that the staff are currently doing that could be outsourced. A lot of that is the assessments for the after-school programs, and Kenneth can speak to that a little bit. He and another staff member went down to visit another county to see how we might be able to do that. Because we're gonna have to reallocate some internal staffing to be more contract manager focused and outsource some things that can be outsourced since we've basically been, told it's not being.
So you're not getting any more staff. And usually they tell us that.
Yeah.
They would tell you that every year, so, but, judging from an incident where a provider reached out to me directly, I do know that there is a great need internally. And I don't want to go into any details about that, but, I know that there's a need internally if we're going to provide the kind of oversight that we need to provide, so.
Yes, we agree.
Any other questions? I mean, how do you, maybe with the board meeting, we are gonna, I don't know how you want to proceed at our board meeting with this, but I'm sure if we have questions, there will be many other questions that will come up at the board meeting on, what is, our need and, really what have we done internally as a board member too to identify some of these areas that we have gaps in and where there may be some. So I'm not sure that I feel comfortable with what I have done internally to address what could be gaps in the community overall, when we have a wish list.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, and I guess too, and you did say that if we wanted, there's no
Right.
timeline, right? I want to make sure that our ability to have robust discussion and
Well, we go before MERC June 21st.
so we need to do it
So
prior to.
in a few weeks before that, I mean, we really should, not make more changes before then. So, but we do have plenty of time at the next meeting to.
Discuss or workshop it. Okay.
And so the after-school program is gonna provide 11 additional sites,
That's correct.
okay?
And those are schools that the district has asked us to add to our list.
And in lieu of schools that they don't know, they're just assuming they're not gonna close any that are at sites that we're currently providing programs and could reallocate those resources. Okay. And the quality assessment coaching, what exactly is that?
Well, this was the time I will share our entire trip, but I'll just ask you a question. So quality assessments are what we do. You probably were familiar with the Likert tool, the PQA program quality assessment tool we're using for after school. It's a tool that is specific to the after school environment where you go in, you're basically you're measuring the quality from the perspective of the child. And so their experience, what's the interaction with staff? Are they involved in the planning? Are they involved in, are they able to give feedback? Are they, you're looking at the activities that are taking place in the program. There's also layers of safety to that. You're looking at things such as ratio and the facilities or doors closed, things of that nature. But it's very specific to the after school arena. It's something that's being used nationwide. It's pretty much the standard for observing the after school program to determine how quality is measured. But to Dr. Grass's earlier point, and to your point, Cynthia, honestly, for the past so many years, we've been attempting to measure quality to fidelity, but because of staffing, lack of staffing, different administration changes, we kind of got up and down with our ability to kind of be consistent with what the model should look like. And going down to visit an agency who that's all they do, one thing was the aha moment was like they actually subcontract out all of their assessments. And there was a specific reason they do that fit within the quality, arena. So that's what the assessments are. It's actually someone going out, physically observing the program, the activity, and giving sort of a score in various domains of quality experience.
And that's $1.5 million.
Well, that's one aspect of it, just quality assessment, but there's coaching, there's the incentives involved in that. It's really a complete continuous improvement process. It involves multiple bodies, which we don't have. And so I think Dr. Grass was looking at that as a way we can still measure the quality. We still see value in the tool. Providers have been using this, doing their own self-assessments. And we realized too, you probably see in our portfolio, it's almost like we've hit the reset button a little bit on program managers. We have a lot of our same providers, but we got a lot of new faces as well too. And so we want to be able to continue to provide the support, but we have to honestly look at our capacity to be able to do it the right way.
Juvenile justice, I really think that's great. So, I don't have any other questions.
He lost me at the RQPQA.
I'm sorry, too many acronyms.
Yeah. But, okay, so, I don't have any other questions. And I guess we move to bring this to the board for further discussion.
Second.
Okay. Next on the agenda, that's right.
Yeah, I think we probably want to table the grant review until the next time, if you're okay with that.
Yes, I would like to do that. Okay, so at this point, I would open up the floor for any other public comments. As you know, we've heard some of the budget review. We've heard some of what the requests for enhancements would be. So if there's anyone that want to have any public comments or, to the board regarding some of that, now is your opportunity.
Leon Bax. We're excited. We're part of the case manager match. And CIS National has agreed that if we can get the match, that they would match the other half. And this would allow CIS to put full-time case managers in the remaining 6 CIS schools. And I can tell you, right now, the case managers are working, the attendance is up, and these case managers work with the whole family. They're doing home visits, they're meeting the needs. If it's mental health, we're referring them to full-service schools. And right now we have case managers in our middle schools partnering with United Way with Achievers for Life. We have them in our high school for after school, but we're lacking in the elementary. And when you talk about elementary, about a year or so ago, we had attendance issues. And we have to get these families connected. So the case management not just works with the student, they work with the entire family. So this is a match that we're able to bring to the table, if you can match it. So we're really excited about that. I hope that it happens. It's a need. We have a principal at Reynolds Lane who is real excited about the data so far, which is one of the Reed Jack sites, where she's seeing the parental involvement increase as well as the attendance. And we know if kids come to school, and we know this, Chairwoman, that if they come to school more, they'll do better. Am I correct? You're right. So that's the focus of the case management piece, and then linking them to all kind of other services, whether it's Feeding Northeast Florida, all of the other services. So having that full-time person on that campus is important. And they'll be on that campus all day, every day, and available. And I'll end with this. There are 14,000 evictions that happened last year. When evictions happen, we got to look at how it impacts the students. Okay? And when that happens, you ask them where do they go? They wind up tripling, doubling up. You would be amazed how many times I've emailed the school district and say, how can we help? We have a family that we have to put up in a hotel because their rents have gone up $500-600 and helping them get stable. When we get them stable through our case management, it helps the student be stable at the school and the entire family. And we focus on the parents as well. A lot of times we focus too much on the kid. Well, the parent is stressing out also. So we're looking to get them linked to other services, whether they're workforce development, development opportunities out there as well. So we're very serious, and everybody knows CIS is best known for case management. Everybody thinks we're best known for after school, but it's a case management piece that we hang our hat on. So that's what it will be. We feel excited about not just coming to ask you, but we're bringing something to the table as well this time. So that's the 6 case managers that we.
Okay, that's at 240,000.
Yes, ma'am.
Special needs. Okay, so any other public comments? Okay, can you?
How you doing?
How you doing?
Darren Williams, Director of After School Programs for the Duval County Public Schools.
Okay.
Chair Nixon, Board Member Oliver, thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for moving this to the full board in reference to the extensions that we are requesting or asking for that will help our schools. We had some consolidations going back and forth, and that's the true purpose behind this, because what we thought Plan A was, we had moved to Plan B. So I think having this will ensure that these students do not miss a beat. As Mr. Baxter has shared, some months are very important. Crime rate normally goes up, so we want to ensure those students are having some kind of structured learning, some structured activity, and enrichment activities. I also want to mention Mr. Boyd earlier. He was here during the governance meeting, but thank you all again, Dr. Raz and Kenneth, for just spearheading this and allowing us to try to continue these services.
Thank you. We don't want to have that reading loss that they experience over the summer either, so. Okay, anyone else?
If I could just again, just kind of piggyback off of Mr. Baxter and just you all, when you're considering here in Northeast Florida, our Alice data, which is access limited income constrained employees, so the working poor, if you will. You have about 40% of our residents in that category, about 40%. So when you think about that and what that ripple effect is, I would just say, I admire you all intently in regards to the things you'll have to grapple with, but our kids are struggling, and it trickles down to mental health supports as well. And we know that it takes a village, and I think everyone within this room have a piece of that puzzle. And we just, really proud to be at the table. Thank you all for being thought leaders in regards to this work. And again, it's just so meaningful. And while, we can pick and choose where we go because there's a need everywhere, I would just like to say again, you all have tough jobs. We understand that. And thank you just for your support for the many years you supported not only United Way, but all providers here in the building.
I heard a presentation on that Alice report, and I think that's something that the entire board could benefit from, it would be great if we could get a presentation of that.
Yeah. And that helps us be informed. Like
Yes.
We can't grapple with anything if we don't know anything.
Yeah.
So the only way we're able to deliberate is to hear from you all and share that. So thank you all for educating us.
Some of those gaps we can address. We know where they are.
And they have an event too. I don't know who said that already. Yeah, I do have a flyer for you. I'll put these over there too.
You need,
I got one. I got one of the governance things.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea about that.
Okay, so it is now 3:40, so if there are no other comments, I'd like to move that we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Okay, meeting adjourned.
Yeah. All right, thank you all. Really good discussion.
Hey, Rachel.
Another meeting. Here you go, Tom. Sorry, I just gotta go. I got a meeting at 3:00.
So it looks like, Miss Sibley over there? No, she's not.
Great.